Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Sonic after the sequel. We're going to be playing this stage as Tails. So yeah, this is Sugar Splash Zone, a very, very unique zone. I think this is the most original zone in the entire game. It's just these piles of sugar everywhere, just mountains of stuff, and these lakes of sugar water and everything, these weird waterfalls. It's just this massive plant where all the sugar is being processed. Some people call this Cocaine Hill Zone. It was originally named Glucose Glacier Zone. It's a pretty interesting zone. Actually, I think it is one of my favorites, if only for how creative the setting is. It's in this zone that we'll see some pretty frustrating design choices. But for now, let's just enjoy it. One thing I want to get out of the way, I was going to say at the end of the last part, I think it's a really nice touch that the Eggmobile Robotnik uses in this is like a slightly modified version of the Eggmobile from Sonic 3. Which is just pretty clever, just because, hey, that game's right after this. Something I want to point out, that pile of sugar here, as I'll be showing in a clip near the end of this video, when Sonic hits one of these piles of sugar and ingests it, he'll have a sugar rush. And he'll just like boost around like crazy for a few seconds with these really tiny pupils and everything. It's hilarious. But strangely enough, it doesn't have that effect on Tails. I don't know why, being younger than Sonic, you'd think that sugar would somehow be more relevant to him and he'd be more prone to getting a sugar rush than Sonic. But some suggest that it's a clever little in-joke that Sonic isn't as mature as Tails. That even though Tails gets scared pretty easily, as we'll see later on, overall, he is more grown-up than Sonic. So it doesn't affect him as much as... I think that actually is a pretty clever joke. That doesn't affect Tails, but it affects Sonic because, hey, he acts like a kid. It just shows how Tails is special in some ways. Okay, something I want to get out of the way right now. Ugh. The bubble shield. The bubble shield is broken in this game, and it was broken on purpose. Apparently, when you're underwater, it won't really protect you. If you get hit, you'll lose your rings, and I think you can even die when you're wearing the shield. That hasn't happened to me yet. But, yeah, all it's good for is for breathing. And this was intentional. It was made so that players wouldn't have to worry so much about losing the ability to breathe. You know, it's a risk and reward. I mean, it's like, you win some, you lose some. You give something up, and you get something back. This enemy right here spurts out sugar, so if Sonic jumped above that, he'd get a sugar rush right there. Oh, dang it! You got this interesting anteater enemy. You don't really know what that's doing here. You'd think it'd be more appropriate for a lava-themed level we'll be seeing later on. But anyway, so yeah, when you're above the water, the bubble shield functions as it normally would. It does protect you from hits, and you won't lose rings or anything. You would just lose the shield. But when you're underwater, you'll keep the shield, but you'll lose your rings, which is really frustrating for me since I'm trying to collect enough rings to reach the special stage. And I get what they were going for. They were trying to make it so that, hey, at least you still get to breathe. That is the whole point of the shield, right? So you can breathe underwater. But I think it's a pretty stupid design choice because the whole point of these underwater sections is that, well, you're underwater. And if you make it so that no matter what happens, as long as you don't outright die, you'll be able to keep breathing underwater, it just kind of makes the underwater sections pointless. But whatever. There are some things I really like about this stage, like this right here, the Sugar Water Waterfall. That's a pretty unique gimmick. And those enemies right there, they're kind of unique. You can only hit them at certain times because if they start spinning their blades around, they'll just, they'll hurt you. It's just an interesting, like, security drone thing. But yeah, I get what they were going for with the bubble shield being changed, but it's still pretty stupid in my opinion, just because it makes the underwater sections pointless and whatever, I've ranted enough about that. This right here is an atrociously designed special stage. I don't want you guys to think I'm just gonna spend the entire time pissing on this game, but I gotta point out that a couple of the special stages like this one really are just designed so badly. I mean, I get what they were going for, but it's just so annoying when you can't help it that you are going to hit a lot of these green blocks. You gotta get this stage over with right away, just like that. This is gonna give you so much trouble. You see, right there, it's just so hard to avoid these things. Like, when you're going at certain speeds, it's pretty much unavoidable that you are going to be hit by one of these orange things into a green glob. It can't be helped. So you gotta, like, choose how you screw yourself over, like, as little as possible. You know, pick your poison. Are you gonna pick the poison that kills you, or the poison that just makes you vomit? Yeah? Whatever. I'm on the next stage. Look right here, look right here. Boingy, 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 boingy. Most of these special stages are okay. I think the idea is unique, but a couple of them, this one and the sixth one, are just horribly designed. Not just because they're hard or whatever, but because they are designed to screw over the player. Anyway, on to the next act. I love this music. This song right here is like where I first realized just how dope this soundtrack really is. And sorry you're not going to be hearing much of it because I'm going to be talking over it, but I am going to at least let you hear like part of the chorus because it's just so good. Anyway, this act is pretty unique. I like that they keep changing up the scenery in these. Here we see a lot of sugar canes, and we see what is one of the most unique enemies in the game. The second most unique in my opinion. Just this weird radiator-looking thing that burns the sugar for whatever reason. I don't know why. Seems like a pretty big waste. It just keeps sucking in sugar and then just torching everything to the sides of it with it. Yeah, that would have been difficult to avoid a Sonic. If I was playing a Sonic, I'd be getting a heck of a sugar high right now. But whatever. I like that here we get the sense that we're inside a place, that we're in this just gigantic building. I love it when they make places like this just feel so vast. Even though you'd think that being inside something like a building, it would suddenly feel really small. I love the synthesizers, I love the instruments, I love everything. I mean, these tunes are already... These melodies are already great, but the way they're composed, the sounds used, also sound really, really, really great. Ah, man. It was this level, this tune right here, where I realized just how amazing this soundtrack can be. I'm surprised these guys aren't, making soundtracks for AAA games. Why are they? Oh, that's right. It's because the soundtracks for, like, all video games nowadays need to be like, BWAM! Typical epic blockbuster shit. Ugh. This soundtrack is so 90s, it hurts so good. This level, it shows off some of the more frustrating design choices. There are some things where you start to see some of the problems, yes, I will call them problems, of this game. But it's got enough good in it, it's got enough cool gimmicks. Right there, I lost the fire shield because there was water right down there. I should have been more careful. But it's got these interesting enemies. Some of them glitch out like that. I'm not gonna lie, this game is pretty glitchy. Not so glitchy that it's unplayable like Sonic 06, but still some pretty lulz-worthy and cringe-worthy things happen throughout it. Yeah, if I was playing a Sonic, that would have been an easy jump over. Anyway, so yeah, things like the sugar waterfalls, where you have to like dodge the enemies as they're spinning around. That's an interesting gimmick. That's something that sets this level apart. It makes it memorable. Stuff like that is cool. And these enemies right here, if you touch them from the sides, you're not going to get hurt, as long as it's not burning. They'll just kind of bounce off it, so you gotta jump above them and hit the head. Yeah, just a really unique enemy. I don't know, some of the enemies in this game do kind of piss me off, but, these enemies, they're alright. They're pretty cool. And again, I just love how layered these backgrounds are. I love how huge this place feels. We're just inside this warehouse with these rows of sugarcane. But it's just really interesting, because in the previous act we were outside, now we're in here. Ah, dang it, that was a great chance for me to show off the physics and how you can bounce really high, but whatever. If you played classic games enough, you already know how stuff like that works. It's a typical, classic Sonic game. I like it. Let's see. If I remember correctly, it was around this point that I lose all my rings, and then I just get desperate to find some new ones. Right there. Ah. Don't worry, I'm not gonna dick around much in this level. Jeez, I've been talking so long that my throat is starting to hurt. I think I'm gonna call it a day after finishing this recording session. But anyway, if I was wearing the bubble shield down here, it would be no help. But whatever. Anyway, this is a really, really cool platforming section right here, because it's not typical. You're navigating these sugar waterfalls that feel so good to jump around in. You know that the sand waterfalls in Sandopolis, how you feel so slow and sluggish, you're like stuck in them? These feel nothing like that. it's very easy to just, you know, move around them, to just jump and jump and jump and jump. Just another thing about this game that just feels really good to do. There's so many things to love. Oh, right here. I kill myself because I didn't have enough rings. But because I grabbed one ring, it thinks I'm alive and I'm just glitching all the way down. That is a pretty cool moment right there. I had to leave that in. Anyway, you see me trying to get all the rings again, and it's frustrating. Thank you, Sony Vegas, for making things like this so easy to do. I had to get these rings. I could not allow myself to make it out of this zone without, you know, the Chaos Emeralds. I have to get them as early as possible. That's just the way I am. I can't help playing it that way. Anyway, that is Act 2. On to the next special zone. Alright, Special Stage 5. I think we've already talked enough about these special stages for now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say something about how I'm gonna be doing this LP. In Sonic before the sequel, at least certain versions of it, I don't know if they changed it when they updated it or whatever, you had to play as Tails in certain, at certain points in the story. You know, you'd play as Sonic for a while, then you'd switch to Tails. This doesn't do that. Here, you can play as Sonic and Tails anytime you want. You can start the game as either of them and play through the entire thing, or, as you saw at the beginning of this video, you can leave the game, go to the options, switch to either character, and proceed through the next chunk of the story as that character. And, no idea what happened here. It's some pretty bad slowdown. Anyway, here's Sugar Splash Zone. So yeah, we're gonna be playing the next zone as Sonic. I just feel like playing this zone as Tails. This level has a pretty frustrating gimmick. You'll see. If you heard that sound effect, it probably sounded pretty familiar. It's from Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. This level has a pretty frustrating gimmick. Every, like, 10 seconds or so, this massive wave just... And it's not that bad of a gimmick, but you just have to watch out for it and, you know, find a good place to sit when it happens, because it'll, you know, if you're rolling, it'll uncurl you, and if you're in the air, it'll just knock you over to the right. And I don't know why I never make the jump as Sonic. I always get hurt by that enemy when I try to reach that spring, but for some reason it's easier with Tails. I guess it's just a glitch. But anyway, yeah, if you're like aligned with an enemy like this, if they're in front of you when that wave comes along, you'll just be smacked right into them. And it's just real. I get what they were going for, and I don't feel like I should complain about this gimmick too much, but, you know, I can understand people, you know, being frustrated with it. And in fact, the first time I played this game, this was the point where I started throwing my hands in the air and just thinking, are you shitting me, game? Like, really? There are some advantages to this, though. I mean, if we were playing as Sonic here, like, we wouldn't be able to make that, unless, as you can see, that wave started, because, you know, for some reason, you can jump much higher when this wave is coming. Like, when you're just underwater, normally, for some reason, you can't do it, but here you can. So that's a pretty interesting gimmick. I like that, you know, it can screw you over, but it can also work in your favor if you learn how to do things right. I mean, if you use it right. This version of the track is pretty unique. Got kind of a, you know, an Eastern flair. Ow. So yeah, I'm getting pretty far in the stage, and I don't have that many rings. Ugh. I'm going to be showing a couple of things in a little bit, like how the bubble shield works or doesn't work in this game. So yeah, this stage, Sugar Splash overall, is where we start to see some of the game's more frustrating design choices, that some of which could be confused with glitches, and there are a few glitches actually. It's not the best zone, but I at least appreciate it for how original it is. And yeah, it's not stupidly hard or anything, but when you're first playing it, it might not make the best impression on you. And I understand that for guys like Clement, it's the first impression, you know, how you feel the very first time you're playing a game that matters most. By the way, by this point, I'm pretty much already at the end of the stage. And I didn't have nearly as many rings as I needed to, so I went back to look for some more. I was just desperate to get those rings. Again, I have to get all those emeralds as early in the game as possible. It'll make it so I can get through the other levels faster and everything, and it's just gonna make things easier. Ah, dang it. After a while, I gave up and started fucking around a bit, and there you go, I got hit again, and yeah. That's how the bubble shield works in this game, people. Yep, I made it to the special stage, and I still didn't get the ring. Here we go. Woo! Look at him go. That's just crazy. And yeah, no boss. You know, there's no boss in this stage. That makes it something of an oddity because there are bosses in every single other zone of the game. For some reason, this one doesn't have a boss. So yeah, that's just another thing that makes the Sugar Splash Zone unique, but in all honesty, kind of confusing. It's a really weird zone, but you know, I find it memorable. I like it for what it is. It has its problems, but you know, it's not a horrible stage. Like I said, I just like it for how unique it is. So yeah, some with that ring over there. What the? This is strange. It's not winter here. There shouldn't be snow anywhere near here. Oh well, we'll get more into that later. But yeah, here's the next zone. Cyan City. I gotta say, I really like this place. So yeah, see you next part, guys. Or see you in part 3, where I'm still getting used to this whole LP thing. Bye.